Hello, I'm Diana, the blind artist that will help you see with your heart and not just your eyes. Welcome. Let's get started. The Art Addicts Alliance theme for September is Paranormal, and I am working in an altered book art journal. So welcome, and this was voted upon each month, the third Friday of each month. The Art Addicts Alliance members get together for a collaboration, which is a voted on theme by the members and general public. And for September, the vote was for Paranormal. And I am working in an altered book art journal. And this is a picture of the lobby of a children's asylum in Germany, and I don't know the date, but it's probably the early 1900s, and you can see in here that there's old metal bed frames. Even though they're calling it a lobby, children must have used to sleep in here because the whole room is filled with old metal bed frames. And the book is called Abandoned: The Most Beautiful Forgotten Places from Around the World. And I will link that down below, giving credit to this book. And I have already done 2 other spreads in it. And for this video, I'm going to do a third one. So this one was a nature scene, and I added that light blue vehicle, actually. I added the cats. I added the skeletons and the ghosts. Now, it was very fun to work in. Here, this is a French chateau, an ancient one that had been abandoned, of course. There was no people in it at all. I added all the people and the monkey playing the guitar. So I am going to work on this spread, and I have already painted it with clear gesso. And I'm going to use matte gel medium for gluing on the figures. And the place that I got the figures from were from a pack of ephemera by Tim Holtz, and they're all vintage people, adults and children. And I'm going to talk more about this, what an asylum is, in a few minutes. But first, I'm just going to talk a little bit. I'm going to talk about my art process. So, yes, using matte gel medium is the best thing because that is a little bit medium heavyweight paper, the ephemera is, and a glue stick probably just would not do the job. So, I'm using a bunch of the vintage children images that were in the pack, and they fit in so nicely. And these girls are so cute. And the way I'm going to make this paranormal theme is I'm going to paint with white paint and make them ghostly like, as if they're not really sitting there, as if they are the ghostly images of children from way back in the early 1900s. And then I'm going to add a third figure here in the background, this child playing a musical instrument. All right, so I'm going to start reading an article about the current affair of asylums in Germany right now. And the article was written in September 2019. And it tells you the current state of affairs for asylums in Germany. And I will give credit for the article down below in the description box. So the title of the article is No Place for Children: Half of all asylum seekers in Germany are children. Let me check if my microphone's good. Sorry. I'm just going to make an adjustment so I make sure my microphone is good. Just a moment. Okay, half of all asylum seekers in Germany are children. Whether they have arrived alone or with their families, it's feared that large numbers are being denied the chance of a stable and healthy childhood. Giving young asylum seekers the opportunity to have a happy and healthy childhood represents a major challenge. Just a minute. Okay, just still trying to make sure my microphone's all right. Many migrant and refugee children need special treatment for psychological damage suffered from traumatic experiences in their home countries. They live with the anxiety of an uncertain future and sometimes the threat of being deported or separated from their families. Without support from loved ones, some unaccompanied children slip through the cracks, ending up as prey for traffickers. Added to this, many children seeking asylum have problems at school if they are able to attend at all. Since 2015, Germany has struggled to cope with the large numbers of refugee children arriving to the country. Even when the numbers started to decline, the United Nations Children Organization UNICEF said Germany was not adequately providing for refugee children in many areas, from physical facilities to opportunities to play and learn and psychosocial support. The backlog in the processing of asylum applications leads to families living in long-term uncertainty, condemned to idleness. UNICEF added, children whose families are subjected to a poor future outlook are especially disadvantaged. Unquote. Germany made changes in 2016 to try to address some of the problems and criticisms from groups including UNICEF, Save the Children, World Vision, the German Red Cross, and others, but many believe they didn't go far enough. One of the areas they say still needs to be improved is asylum seeker accommodations infrastructure, which experts say often can compound mental health problems experienced by children. A DW reporter recently visited a relatively new modular accommodation for asylum seekers. That was MUF in Berlin, a gray cement complex, which is called the Wartenberger Street MUF, overlooks an isolated street in the city's northwest. The block opposite is a building site. At the back is a playground where a few children are playing. The complex houses around 400 asylum seekers. Almost half of them are children and youths. The ratio of children to adults is about the same across Germany. In the first half of 2019, there were 100,000 asylum applications. 50,000 were for children, mostly under the age of 4. Unlike unaccompanied migrant children, Children who flee with their families often remain under the radar in society, Jorg Forgert, a pediatric psychiatrist at the University Hospital in Ulm, told DW, "This has to change urgently because these children often grow up in cramped conditions and often in an atmosphere characterized by violence and aggression, trauma, and depression." Children's rights groups, too, have been calling for the situation to change. We need a stronger focus on securing rights and protecting children who have fled, unquote, says Susanna Kruger of Save the Children. While improvements have been made in Germany, more needs to happen, Kruger says. Putting policy into action. In 2016, Germany developed a concept aligned at ensuring the well-being of children in asylum seeker accommodation. But establishing whether the measures have been put in place remains a challenge. One of the problems is that funding is short, particularly in rural areas. There is a lack of adequate infrastructure. Asylum seeker centers are often remote and can be located a far distance from kindergartens or schools. Because of housing shortages, especially in the cities, a lot of families are forced to stay in asylum seeker centers, even though they would prefer to leave. 16-year-old Wanya from Pakistan has been living in Wartenberger Street with 6 other family members for nearly 2 years. She likes the communal aspect of life here, but she would rather be living in an apartment in the city. Quote, "It takes me 40 minutes to get to school," unquote, she says. "That's really far away. Centers are not child-friendly." The head of Wartenberger Street Center, Katerina Marek, says she's happy with the standard of accommodations here. For about 200 children, there are 2 playgrounds and an outdoor area with playground, as well as lots of programs and excursions. Yes, there could be more play areas, Marek concedes, but we're on the right track. Marek works closely with a child protection officer in cases of family violence. For example, they might intervene in order to mediate between parents and the Department of Youth Services, or they may start a discussion with parents if they think a child is acting in an unusual way or showing signs of neglect. Still, residents and caregivers are agreed. An accommodation center is no place for a real life, and it's no place for a child to grow up. Muhammad Ali, which is not the boxer, it's spelled Alee, from Iraq, has been living in the center in Wartenberger Street for a year and a half. Before that, he was in an initial reception center. Compared with that, quote, "This is like a 5-star hotel," unquote, he says. But, quote, "But this place is no substitute for your own apartment," unquote, Muhammad says. He has 2 adult daughters, and he says, "I'm happy that they didn't have to grow up in an asylum seeker center." And that's the end of the article, and I will credit that down below in the description box. So I have added the paint, and I actually probably thinned it down with glazing medium. And in the paranormal theme. I've made these like ghostly figures from the early 1900s. And for the rest of the video, I am going to set it to music, and you can continue watching my process. Here I'm painting orbs of light, which could be like paranormal orbs of light energy, paranormal entities.